Welcome to Computer Science 112's lesson on the infected simulation part 1. We're going to have a multi-part series for this in order to help us build an infection rate for our turtles, who we're going to actually model as humans. This is a very basic simulation, and so should not be taken as any kind of medical advice. So, in this introduction, we're going to begin our work on a virus simulation program, and it's going to model the effects of a virus simulation in a human population. This population is going to be a closed population, meaning that it's the same number of people that are always interacting with each other and not having any exterior forces aside from what we do as the observer. What we're mostly going to focus on this specific one, this specific part of this, is the basics that we need in order to create this virus simulation, and then kind of starting to get our program set up and ready to go. As we go through this, make sure you have your NetLogo IDE open so that you can follow along and you can be set up for success come at the end of the video. And just as a side note, just make sure that you're definitely following along and kind of paying attention. And what's really important about this is that we need to get everything ahead of time before we start making our code. We're going to talk about that right here. So in order to understand how to write this program, we're going to need to understand the circumstances of events that need to happen in order to get infected. In a basic virus simulation such as this, we're going to have three types of people. The first are people who are healthy. They're not sick, and they also are not immune to what the disease. We're also going to have people who are sick. They, at this point in time, are not immune to the disease, but they're also not healthy. And then we're going to have people who are no longer sick and have an immunity to the virus. This is very common of having, once you get to something, you typically have a immunity to that specific version of the virus for a set number of time until it mutates or changes slightly. So we're going to develop this code as we go throughout this entire unit. So, to infect the turtles, we're going to need to set a certain percentage of the numbers to be infected. We're just going to have them randomly start off as being infected. The following code that we have selects a random float value, and this one specifically does a decimal. A float is a decimal. If the selected number is less than 75, the code sets the turtle color to be green. And so green is going to be our sick turtles. And so this is the little bit of code right here. If random float 100, so it chooses a float, a decimal number, between 0 and up to, but not including 100. If that number is less than 75, then the turtle is going to be sick, and we're going to set the color to be green. What this will result in is approximately 75% of the turtles being green. It is theoretically possible for all of the turtles to choose a number that's greater than 75, and so none of the turtles are sick. Now, statistically speaking, that's not going to happen. So just something that we should use. This format we're going to use to select a certain percentage of turtles or patches. This is a very common system to use, both in NetLogo and in other languages as well, to choose that decimal value. All right. So in our warm-up that we had some code that was used to set the turtles at a random location. 75% of them are green. Before we have the program run, you're going to add the setup button to the program interface. So let's go ahead and program this. So I'm going to switch over. And in case you didn't already or you don't have the warm-up, let's see here. This should be getting bigger for you guys. Yeah. All right, so we're going to have our two set up. And what we're going to do is we always have this, we have this clear all, and I always just have my reset ticks too. I'm going to have this at the end, so I'm going to have this in here. So whenever we're doing this, we're going to have, we're going to create 50 turtles, so CRT 50, and then we're going to have our command bracket. And this command bracket is going to be what we utilize to kind of have all of our turtles start the same way. So we're going to have them go to a random spot, so set px core random x core, set py core random y core. Then we're going to do our little random thing. So if random float, we want up to 100. If that's less than 75, then I want to have them set color green. Okay. And so I'm going to check this, and no closing bracket. Oh, right. Yes. No closing bracket. Check. All right, cool. That checks out. On my interface, I think I can zoom in on this one too. I can't. Sweet. I'm going to add a button. And this one is going to be, and you can't quite see this. Let's see if I do this. I think you can. The command is going to be setup, setup. Okay. I'm going to add another one. And this is going to be a command of go. So I'm going to disable until this tick start, but this is going to be my step function. And I'm going to add another button that I disable until tick start. And this one's going to go forever. And the command is go with a display name of go. You don't really have to put the display name, but it's just nice to do. So if I click on setup, oh, whoops. I don't want PX core, I want X core. I was thinking patches for some reason. All right, let's try that again. Setup. Hey, it sets up all of our turtles. The green guys should be sick. All right, awesome. Yeah, okay, cool. All right. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and add in an actual slider so that we can change this around, make it a little bit more interesting. So we're going to make a slider, and we're going to call it percent infected. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and replace that percent infected, or the 75, with this percent infected. So let's go ahead and go do that. So I'm going to make my slider. And you can't see that display when I have this up. My global variable is going to be percent infected and 0 to 100. That sounds fine. Currently, this isn't going to do anything, so I want to go into my code and change this to be percent infected. All right, so everyone still is happy. Awesome, cool. All right, so switch back to this. Agent variables, we're going to add a couple variables. We've done this before with patches. The same thing applies to turtles. So turtles can have all their own variable values. We can create additional variables for them. However, it's very important that we declare these variables at the very top of our program. You can imagine if you're doing a math assignment and you do all the work and then all of a sudden your teacher's like, oh, actually you had another variable in there that you have to account for. You'd probably be a little bit upset. So what we're going to do is we're going to create these variables. We're going to create the patch's own infected and immune, and we're going to utilize that. You can actually skip the terrain part that they have on this. We don't actually ever get into that. I just haven't changed the slides yet. So, all right, let's go ahead and switch to our code. So I'm going to go to my code, and so above my to setup, and actually I really should have my name here, Hawkins, and what I'm working on, which is the unit 9 in this case. It could be a different unit in your class. Unit 9 infection. Actually, it might just be better to make this infection, infection simulation. All right, so let's go ahead and make those variables. So the ones that we're specifically talking to is the turtles. So the turtles they own this variable called infected and immune. And these are going to be numbers that we kind of generate so that they can tell if they're still sick or if they're immune to something. All right. Just anytime I make a check or make a change, like adding something like that, I check this, everything looks fine. You can right click on one of these turtles and click on Turtle 23 Inspect Turtles. This doesn't show up for you unless I switch my display. And you get something like this, and you can see that there's now this infected variable and the immune variable down here. So just good to know. It doesn't do anything, but it's good to know. All right. So let's go back to our slides. All right. So what we're going to do is, this is actually kind of the end of the lesson, and what we're going to do is you're going to use this process to set a certain percent of the turtles to be infected in a blue color. So in our lesson, they're going to be green and sick, and in the assignments, they're going to be blue and sick. And so the first part of this is to write all that initial code. We kind of have most of it. Here is some sliders that you need to have. So num turtles, move angle, percent infected, num days infected, move distance, and have those turtles have this infected variable. These sliders only, if you know where they could go, you might want to put them in. Like I'm looking at num turtles and I'm like, I think I know where that would go. Percent infected, we built that one already. These are the numbers, and it's kind of nice to do like halfway in between them. So if num turtles is 1 to 500, I might put 250. Hopefully, oh yeah. So here's what you're going to need to do. In setup, we need to have procedures set up turtles and set up infected. We didn't do that, and I'll do it here in a second, but you're going to use these procedures to do what we did in the program already. Set up turtles is going to create the number of turtles, set the heading to be a random number, and set random XY coordinates, and call a make-well function. So we're going to make another function called make-well. Make-well is going to set their infected value to 0 and set their color to be yellow. Set up infected, if it's a random, it's very much what we did. We're going to do a procedure called make infected. And make infected is going to set infected to the number of days infected and set the color to be blue. On go, we're going to have the procedure move. Move is going to use a wiggle routine that we did before in order to move the turtles. So they're going to turn right randomly amount, left randomly amount, and then go forward the move distance. We're going to make sure we comment on our code. We're going to get into it. All right, so let's just do this all together. So in my setup code, I'm going to be changing this. I'm going to add a procedure to set up turtles. Set up turtles. Scroll down a little bit. And we actually have most of this. I'm actually going to take this. I know I'm not going to use all of it. I'm going to have to change it a little bit and paste it in here. And I'm going to use, in my setup, I'm going to have clear all, and I'm going to do setup turtles, and then I'm going to make infected, or no, not make infected, setup infected. Okay. All right, so in here, this is actually going to be our infection programming. And to set up, what do I call that? Infected? Set up infected. We're going to use some of that. We'll come back to this. This is just cleaning up our code for a little bit. So going back to our setup turtles, I want this to be the slider. I haven't made the slider, I know. So I'm going to make a slider called, and you can't see that when I have that like that. This is going to be a global variable that we call num turtles. I think I said 1 to or 0 to 500, and there should always be 1. 500. Make this 250. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's upset because this seems like it should be in like a turtle type system, and it currently is not. We'll deal with that here in a second. All right, so this is going to be num turtles. Set x coord to be random x coordinate, set y coordinate to be random y coordinate, and then we are going to set heading. And in the directions, it does say to use wiggle angle, however, the move angle. However, if you choose a small angle, which is pretty common, it has most of them facing in one direction. So we're just going to do random 360. So there's going to be set some kind of random 360 degree angle. All right. Still upset. Let's see here. make well. So you notice that none of them are a color. We want them to all be the same color, actually. So we're going to call a procedure called make well, which actually doesn't exist yet. And so to make well, this is already talking to the turtles, and so we don't want to use this in another turtles context. So meaning I don't want to do ask turtles to blah blah blah, and that's important to pay attention to. And so actually I'll even go so far as to put a little note right here and say in turtle context, so that then we know, oh, it's already talking about it should be used by inside of an ask turtles situation. So going in here to make well, we're going to set the color. Let's make them yellow. I think that's actually the instructions I had. And then I also want to set infected, so set the value of infected to be 0. I want them to be healed. I'm not necessarily making them immune, but I am healing them. So end. All right. And still going to be upset about setup infected. So, and we're actually going to take this and to, we can do it if I can spell infect. To make infected, we're actually going to take this and actually, no, we're not going to do that. To make infected, we're going to set the color, and the this we're going to make it blue, and we're going to set infected to be, I need to check what that was, num days infected. So set infected to be num days infected, and we're going to do an end. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're actually going to move it into here. Say we're going to do make infected. So let's see here. Nothing name. Yeah, I know that's a slider. All right, go make a slider of num days infected. We'll leave it as 100 for right now. Cannot use observer context. So in here, in setup infested, we need to ask the turtles to do this. Dear turtles, make everyone sick. I'm going to go through and I hit my tab button to make this kind of clean up. Check. All right. Setup. All right. I got blue turtles. I got yellow turtles. My percent infected was 50%. I'd roughly judge that that's 50%. If I right click on one of these guys and inspect the turtle, we see that infected is at 50, so that means that guy's sick. Let's grab a yellow one. Hopefully this is turtle 60 here. Infected is 0. We can see their color. Okay. All right. Let's see. Do I have anything else I need? Set up turtles. We did that. We did the make well function. We did the setup function. Okay. Now let's go ahead and go do this go. I do notice I need a move angle, which I know to be a slider, and also move distance, which I also know to be a slider. So let's go make those sliders. So move angle. I want them to go all the way to 360. So let's set 180. Okay. And then we're going to make another one. That is the move, no, is that what I called it? Yeah, move distance. Move distance. I think I did like 0 to 2, but my increment was 0.01, or 0.1. Sorry. And by default, I'm going to make that 1. And now I need to do my move code. So scrolling down to go. We are going to ask the turtles to move. And you might be wondering why we have this as an AskTurtles move instead of providing move as a having the AskTurtles inside of it. You could do that. However, I do know later in this code that I'm going to have different functions that they want to use, and it's actually more efficient for me to use the AskTurtles in the go procedure instead of having like AskTurtles multiple times, because it's something that we're already doing it. We don't want to repeat ourselves if we can help it. We're going to have it tick here and then end. So checking this. Well, yeah, it would help if I defined what move was. Okay, to move, they're going to LT, left turn, by, was it move angle? Yeah, move angle. And then we're going to RT, move angle. This is that wiggle code that we've done before. And then we're going to go forward, the move, I just did this step. Don't check that. Move distance. I was thinking distance, but distance. All right, and then end. All right, check. Everything check out. Okay. So setup. Do a couple little steps just to see they're doing stuff. They are. And they're moving around. And yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I think the only thing you need to do now is to go in and add some comments. I provided a couple just for clarification for myself. But you should probably go in and provide a little more explanation on some of these bits. Hopefully this was helpful.